Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator Wednesday update. Today I'll be covering the weather for the rest of the week of November 29th until November 30th. So let's start off with the outlooks that are currently issued, starting off with our severe weather outlooks for the rest of this week. For today, we don't really have any areas forecasted for severe thunderstorms, but we are expected to see some rain showers and some general thunderstorms for the eastern half of Texas, as well as some areas in the Rockies for Arizona and New Mexico. This is actually associated with a low pressure system, which is going to be leading to some impacts tomorrow. For tomorrow, actually, we currently have an enhanced risk issued for southeastern Texas, with a marginal threat extending up across eastern Texas and into southern Oklahoma. The main driving threat for this enhanced risk is a 10% tornado threat. However, it isn't hatched, so we aren't expected to see significant tornadoes, but we are expected to see the possibility of a few tornadoes across southeastern Texas. One concern though with this is Houston, Texas. Houston, Texas is in very close proximity to that 10% risk. So Houston, Texas may be one of the biggest concerns as far as the severe weather threat for tomorrow. Um, Other threats include a 5% wind threat and a 5% hail threat. However, our wind threat and hail threat is going to be fairly marginal, with the primary driving threat being the 10% tornado threat for that enhanced risk. More information on that enhanced risk will be after all these outlooks that we're going to be taking a look at. So if you are concerned about the weather for tomorrow, highly suggest you wait until then. For our day three outlook, we do have a marginal threat, which is going to be mostly the remnants of the severe thunderstorm threat from tomorrow for Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. Um, uh, Currently, there's no threats issued because it is on our day three outlook, but it does have a probabilistic 5%, which is mostly marginal. And then we currently don't really have anything issued for our day four to date outlooks. Taking a look at our excessive rainfall outlooks and our WPC outlooks, for today we currently don't have any issued areas for flash flooding. However, for tomorrow for the Mississippi River Valley, where we are expected to see some severe thunderstorms, we do have a marginal threat for some isolated flash flooding across the Mississippi River Valley. And then that does continue into day three for the region where we are expected to see a couple marginal severe thunderstorms for the deep southeast. Mostly it's an isolated threat, but this does continue into day four in the southeast, and then we also have a marginal threat for the northwest here for a very small portion of coastal southwestern Oregon and northwestern California, and then that does continue and expand into day five. With a much larger marginal threat for northern California and coastal regions of Oregon. Um, we are expected to see more of a threat for flash flooding past this as well, past our day 5 outlook, because we are expected to see constant rain for Washington in the northwest this week. And then we can also take a look at our winter weather forecast for this week. For today, we aren't really expected to see too much heavy snow, but we are expected to see some heavy snow mixed in with those rain showers and general thunderstorms for the Rocky Mountains in Arizona and New Mexico, and then also some heavy snow for some of the Rocky Mountains in Washington through California. And that is really going to pick up in the next couple of days. With tomorrow, we are expected to see a ton of snow for those Rocky Mountains through Washington to California, and then some isolated areas for some heavy snow across the rest of the Rockies. And same for day three, where it is really going to be picking up for Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, California, Colorado, and New Mexico, where we are expected to see just a ton of heavy snow on our day three outlook. Um, and then we are expected to just see continuous snow up to day seven as well across the Rocky Mountains. It is expected to decrease significantly around day five to day six, but we still are expected to see some heavy snow for those Rocky Mountains. And then we could also see some heavy snow for day five to day seven outlooks for the New England region. And then let's take a look at some of our surface fronts that we are expected to see for the rest of the week, up to Sunday. Let's take a look at that low pressure system that's actually in the southern Rockies. Um, on Thursday, we are expected to see a cold front that is going to develop with that low pressure system in the Rocky Mountains. And as that cold front develops, that is going to swing into the Central Plains, and that's what's going to be triggering our severe thunderstorms in southeastern Texas tomorrow. And that cold front is going to continue across the eastern half of the United States, leading to some rain showers, as well as a little bit of snow for some of the more northern regions. And then we are also expected to see a second cold front behind that for very late this week into early next week, with a little bit of rain behind the first cold front, but overall not really too much with that. And then take a look at the northwest there. We are expected to see a couple cold fronts actually impact the northwest there, and that's going to be leading to almost constant rain for the northwest. And as those push into the Rocky Mountains, that is going to be leading to just a ton of snowfall for the Rocky Mountains in the second half of this week. Taking a look at our weather models, we're going to be starting off with our name 3 kilometer models before we go into our GFS models, because I really want to go in depth in covering that enhanced risk for southeastern Texas tomorrow. Um, so again, as I was mentioning previously, we do have that cold front in the southern Rockies, and that's going to be leading to some heavy snowfall mixed in with some rain there. And that is going to develop a cold front in the Rockies by tomorrow, and that cold front is going to be swinging into the Central Plains to trigger those severe thunderstorms. Um, you can see that we have an embedded shortwave trough there with some significantly stronger mid-level flow compared to the surrounding areas, possibly getting up to 90 miles per hour with that shortwave trough at our 500 millibars. There is going to be a little bit of uncertainty with this. Overall, we are mostly concerned about instability, and if instability is really going to be strong enough to really support a strong tornado threat or not. We are expected to have instability, however, with some widespread rain showers before our severe thunderstorms in the morning, that is going to be leading to a little bit of uncertainty and with how that's going to be affecting our instability. However, I do believe that our trough is going to be able to pull quite a bit of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico there, and then also use up quite a bit of the moisture that's kind of been returning slowly to the Central Plains to support our severe thunderstorms. So I don't think we're going to have too much of a problem with instability. Um, but there's going to be a little bit of uncertainty with instability there. And then let's let's follow the isobars here. You can see in the south and then compared to the north, you can really see how they are spreading out there. Um, that is going to be leading to quite a bit of lift in diffluence. Diffluence is whenever the isobars and wind vectors spread apart from each other, which leads to a little bit of a void in the atmosphere. And the atmosphere uses air from the lower levels to fill up that gap. We aren't really supposed to look at diffluence on our 500 millibars though. However, we are expected to be looking at our diffluence on our upper level winds. However, there isn't a lot of diffluence in our upper levels. There is a lot in our 300 millibars, which is in our upper levels, but there isn't a lot in our 200 millibars, which is our the highest we can go. So, overall, we aren't expected to have too much diffluence in the upper levels, especially at the 200 millibars, but we are expected to see quite a bit at 300 millibars and 500 millibars, even though we aren't supposed to look at diffluence on our 500 millibars, but that should provide quite a bit of lift for our severe thunderstorm threat tomorrow. Um, and even if we don't really see all that much lift because we are looking at the fluence for 500 millibars, the very spreading out very prominent spreading out of those wind vectors in isobars is going to be leading to a ton of directional shear that is going to be enhanced by that shortwave trough back behind everything, leading to just a ton of directional shear. If we can actually take a look at our directional shear really quick, if we switch to our HER models, which actually allows us to look at our storm relative helicity, which is our directional shear, opposed from our bulk shear, which takes into account our speed and directional shear. We can take a look at our storm relative helicity to take a look at our directional shear, and you can see we are expected to have just a ton of directional shear in that area, which is going to be supporting a threat for a few tornadoes across that area. Again, storms are going to be able to use up that insane amount of directional shear in the atmosphere. We are expected to see storm relativity values that are going to be ranging anywhere from 500 up to 900. Again, that's an insane amount of directional shear. Even though that's the farthest I can go with the models, it does spread out quite a bit further on our name 3 kilometer models. I'm not sure why Radar Omega doesn't let us use storm relativity on name 3 kilometer models. But on pivotal weather, we see a ton of directional shear, especially after how far the HER models are running. So again, we are expected to see a ton of directional shear for this area, and that's going to be supporting the threat for a few tornadoes. Um, Even if we do have the uncertainty with instability, we are expected to have instability, and our storms are again going to be able to use up just an insane amount of directional shear to support the threat for a few tornadoes across that area. And then we can also take a look at our instability that we are expected to see tomorrow. Um, Again, our instability is going to be a little bit more of a sliver. Um, It does look significantly more widespread on our HER models. However, we do go back down to our name 3 kilometer models. It is not as prominent as our HER models. Um, we're just going to give a second to load, and you can see we are expected to have a little bit more of a sliver here for ample instability to support the threat for a few tornadoes. We are expected to have instability that is going to be fairly strong, though. That's going to be getting into the 2000s. However, notice how small the sliver of ample instability is going to be. And then again, with those morning showers beforehand, that is going to be leading to uncertainty. So it does look like we are expected to have ample instability, but again, there is going to be uncertainty with it. So again, to recap, we are expected to see a little bit more uncertain instability, but we are expected to see a ton of directional shear that is going to be supporting the threat for a few tornadoes tomorrow. And then we can also take a look at the timing for that really quickly. Let's take a look at the timing for when we are expected to see our severe thunderstorms tomorrow. So you guys are warned beforehand. You can see that line of severe thunderstorms is expected to develop probably around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. It does look like it's going to develop in two main lines, with one developing back in more so towards the west around 8 p.m. And you can see a very prominent supercell there with what looks to be a little bit of an inflow notch and a very prominent hook. So it is definitely going to be using up that directional shear. It's just crazy to see that prominent of a supercell on our HER models, or sorry, our name 3 kilometer models. That may not be a prominent supercell. I may be looking at it wrong, but still, we are expected to see a couple supercells across this area. And then we are also expected to see a second line of storms to develop that is going to be extending from Houston up into southern Arkansas around 11 p.m. And those two are going to combine as they enter into Louisiana and cross the Mississippi River around 1 a.m. So this is going to be a fairly late at night threat, but it is going to be a fairly widespread threat as well, and it's going to be lasting overnight. So that could potentially lead to some hazards because it is going to be at night, and you guys won't be able to see hazards beforehand. So you guys will have to be relying on the warnings that the NWS does issue. So don't rely on your eyes for the severe thunderstorm threat tomorrow. You will have to be looking out for warnings, and definitely staying weather alert with this threat tomorrow. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity, I'm going to be going over what we are expected to see as far as rainfall for the rest of this week. So again, we are expected to see that cold front and the severe thunderstorm threat tomorrow. But again, we are expected to see that cold front expand and organize rapidly across the Mississippi River Valley and Midwest, and travel across the eastern half of the United States, leading to quite a bit of rainfall for the second half this week. And then we are expected to see a second low pressure system and cold front behind that, which is going to be leading to some rain again. But then look at the southeast and what's coming out of the Gulf of Mexico out of the first cold front. We are expected to see a continuous jet of air out of the Gulf of Mexico, and that's going to be leading to quite a bit of rainfall. That's going to be almost non-stop in the deep southeast for the rest of this week until the second cold front, and that's going to be leading to a threat for flash flooding in the southeast there that you guys will have to be watching out for if you live in any low-lying areas. As of right now, the outlooks are looking at more of a marginal threat, an isolated threat for flash flooding, but those outlooks are subject to change between now and then. So again, we are expected to see constant rainfall for the deep southeast and the threat for some flash flooding, but that is expected to clear out around the third with that second cold front, and then we can also take a look at the northwest here. We are expected to see just a ton of waves here of rainfall out of the Pacific Ocean. We are expected to see, I think, like 3 to 4 come out of the Pacific Ocean by the end of this week. And again, as those push into the Rocky Mountains, that is going to be leading to some snow in the Rocky Mountains and very heavy snow at that as well. And something else I do want to mention is that with those cold fronts in the east, we are expected to see not really a crazy amount of snow, but we are expected to see some snow towards the north with the northern half of that cold front in some of the Midwest into Michigan and Wisconsin and into the New England corridor. And we are expected to just see constant rainfall, almost constant rainfall for the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to be leading to a flash flooding threat that's going to be fairly prominent across the Northwest for the second half this week. And now let's see how our temperatures are expected to be impacted by these cold fronts that we are expected to see across the eastern half of the United States and Midwest. It has been warming up a little bit after the first cold front towards the beginning half of this week, where a lot of the United States was getting below freezing at night in the early morning. We still are expected to see some areas that are going to be getting below freezing at night, like in the New England corridor into the Ohio River Valley and down the Appalachian. And then also in the northern half of the United States, as far north as Nebraska, Iowa, and northern Illinois. Um, and it's kind of going to stay that way pretty much for the entire week because of those two cold fronts. We aren't really expected to see it really warm up. Really, we are expected to see a little bit of warming, especially in the day, in a little corridor into early next week. In the high plains, anywhere from Colorado up to Montana into Canada, even we are expected to see those temperatures in the 40s that are going to 40s and up to the 60s that are going to be returning very far north. But again, it is still going to be fairly cold, especially at night for the rest of this week into early next week because of those cold fronts. And then let's take a look at how our dew points are going to be affected, as well as our instability from these two cold fronts that we are expected to see. With that first cold front, that is going to be pulling ton of moisture out of the deep southeast. However, that is expected to clear out with the second cold front. We are expected to see a little bit of moisture left in the form of some 40s in the deep southeast and the deep central plains. Um, but overall, we aren't expected to see all that much moisture left in the vast majority of the United States. But we could see a little bit of moisture because of how much rain we are expected to see in the northwest, northwest, with dew points that could be getting up to the 50s. But overall, we aren't really expected to see too much instability, and that shouldn't really support instability that's going to be leading to a severe thunderstorm threat in the northwest there. So don't be alarmed when you see dew points in the 50s. We aren't really expected to see any threat as far as severe thunderstorms in the northwest there. Taking a look at our total snowfall totals that we are expected to see this week, notice the Rockies here where we are expected to see just a ton of snow. We are expected to see some areas that could potentially get up to 15 inches of snow. Um, Anywhere in the green is above 12 or 13 inches. So I think snowfall totals are probably going to average anywhere from 10 inches to probably 4 inches across the Rocky Mountains. And then I don't think that this is entirely accurate. Across the Rocky Mountains in the Northwest here, through Washington to Oregon, we are expected to see a ton of snow on the GFS models, getting up to like 56 inches in the Rocky Mountains, which is probably not accurate, but we are expected to see just a ton of snowfall for the Rocky Mountains in that region. So even if we aren't expected to see that much snowfall, we are expected to see a ton of snowfall by the end of this week for that area. And then back to what I said previously about the northern half of those cold fronts, where we could see some snowfall for the northern half of those cold fronts for the Central Plains into the Midwest, as well as Michigan and into the New England corridor here. We aren't expected to see a crazy amount of snow, but we still are expected to see some snow for those regions because of that cold front. Now that I've told you the weather, please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or you notice anything might have been wrong with this forecast, please leave a comment. And if you live in any of the areas I covered for tomorrow, please stay with the alert for the time being and watch for updates. Two other channels that I highly suggest you check out are One Nation Weather and Weather Watcher. One Nation Weather is extremely close to 1,000 subscribers. He may have already hit it. I haven't checked, but he is extremely close. So if you could go down to the description and click on the link to One Nation Weather's channel and subscribe to him, it would mean the world to him. And hopefully, I'll be able to see you guys on Sunday with another forecast.